The day rate contracting, I didn't find it particularly fulfilling. Yes, I mean, the money's good, but you're brought in and kind of told, this is the format we need the requirements to be defined into, and you've got to put them all into Jira in this format. Yeah, you're going to run these workshops. And it just kind of took away a lot of that, the creative side of being a BA that I like about, working out, well, what's the best approach for me to adopt in this particular business situation.
Welcome to the Inside Business Analysis podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Jacobs, and today I'm joined with Stu. How are you doing today, Stu?
I'm very good, Tando. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. Thank you for agreeing to come on the show and being willing to share your expertise with our listeners today. Can you just briefly introduce, to everyone who you are and what do you do?
Okay, so I'm Stu Mullinger. I'm a consultant business analyst. I've been a BA for, it'll be 20 years next year. And it looks like I've been doing it longer. I've had a hard life. So I've worked in a variety of BA roles and kinds of BA role along my journey there. I'm sure we'll dig into some of that. But currently I'm the sole BA at Better Business Analyst Limited, which is a BA consultancy.
Awesome. And how long have you been the sole BA of Better Business Analyst for?
So I started it back in the summer of 2020. So fairly early into the COVID pandemic. Great time to start a business as the world fell apart around us.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. So this is your own company, isn't it?
Yeah.
So after 20 years of working as a business analyst, what led you to this path?
So I had been, prior to the pandemic, I'd been working for a couple of years as a day rate contractor. Did a few gigs like that, and my final gig finished at the end of 2019. And me and my husband, we had a holiday booked for 2020 in February, and thinking, well, there's no point getting another contract until we have that holiday and we come back, and then I'll look and take the next thing. Because we came back and into a world where people started wearing face masks and everyone stopped recruiting BAs at that point. So there was a brief hiatus. That gave me the time to stop and think about, well, what do I actually want to be doing? And the more I thought about it, I thought, actually, I'd quite like, to have my own company, do things my way, take on the pieces of work that I want to do. So set up the company. It was a big leap for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think to be fair, I mean, it sounds like you were pushed into it, but just it also sounds like you had a very good timing with that holiday. Just before the pandemic, you went away, relaxed, and then came back to the world as chaotic.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So how did you know then, in terms of wanting to start your own thing? I'm curious to kind of understand that a bit more in terms of, like, why didn't you just carry on kind of going through finding another contract or maybe finding another permanent role? What were the kind of main points that led you to really realize that, yes, actually, this is the path I want to take?
Yeah. So the day rate contracting, I didn't find it particularly fulfilling. Okay. You would be brought in, and yes, I mean, the money's good, for each day that you work, but you're brought in and you're there whether or not stakeholders have got time to spend talking to you. So the pace of the work wasn't great, I found quite often. You were always kind of told, this is the format we need the requirements to be defined into, and you've got to put them all into Jira in this format, etc. You're going to run these workshops, and it just kind of took away a lot of that, the creative side of being a BA that I like about, working out, well, what's the best approach for me to adopt in this particular business situation. And I wasn't really getting that as a contractor. you're just sort of there to be kind of, they point you at the work and off you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very, very strong points there, and I think I've seen that as well with contractors who've come into the companies I've worked at, and it is very like you're only here to do this, so do that
Yeah.
sort of perspective. And there's no freedom to kind of go down another way. So okay, so you had all these frustrations, but obviously there was another element of this perfect timing, in the sense that you probably couldn't get another contract even if you wanted to because of the pandemic and all the rest of it. So that then actually led you to almost bring this to life. I guess this thing that you may have been thinking about it for some time.
Yeah, and there's a saying, I've no idea where I picked it up, but it's that when a fisherman can't go to sea, he mends his
Mm,
nets.
right,
And so
right.
it basically means
Yeah,
that, when you can't be doing the thing that you want to be doing, you get yourself in a good position to do that thing better and more effectively when you do have the opportunity to do that. And so
yeah.
part of the setup of the company, that process gave me time to really take stock about, well, what work do I want to be doing? What's going to make me happy in that? Have I got the skills and knowledge that I need to do those things well? How am I going to have those conversations where I don't want to do something? All of these different things. I could take a bit of time to just get myself ready to be effective like that.
Of course, yeah. What are some of the differences then between being a contractor and now being I guess, your own solo consultant, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So a big practical difference is when I take on a piece of work, I'm quoting a fixed fee for that work generally.
Right.
So there'll be introductory conversations and scoping for that work where I'll be trying to work out, well, okay, what activities do I think I'm going to be doing here? How long are those things going to take me? Therefore, how much do I want to be charging for this? How much do I think the client's going to be willing to pay for it? Trying to, hit on that number. And it can be risky because if I get that wrong, I may have signed myself up to a lot more work than I'm ever going to be able to charge them for, and that's my loss. I might go the other way. Hasn't happened yet, but I might go the other way. Get really lucky where I've quoted a price. Actually, I managed to do it in far less time and effort than I ever thought it would be. I'm quids in. I'm still waiting
Yeah.
for that gig to come along. But
Fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. That sounds scary, Stu, I'll be honest. How do you Yeah, that sounds scary to me, because how do you then figure out, because when you're saying you're pricing, you're fixing your prices even. I'm imagining that they would tell you that we're looking for business analysis work for 6 months, and then effectively you're saying for 6 months worth of work, this is my price for that 6 month period. Is that effectively how the conversation will be going?
yeah, so I'll be asking questions around what they want to be achieving, and I'll then be thinking about, well, what BA activities am I going to need to do to make that happen. So it generally won't be that they'll ask for a BA for 6 months. It'll be, we'd like you to review all of our finance processes, for example, and come up with recommendations to improve them. So I'll be then trying to find out, well, how many processes is that, and how big do I think those are? Because not all processes are created equal. And I'll be breaking that down into, okay, well, I think I'm going to need a number of workshops with stakeholders. I'm going to need time to produce process models and analyze those. I'm going to be wanting to document the systems that they're using, the roles that are involved. I'll be sort of totting all of those things up, thinking, well, yeah, okay, it's going to take me half a day to do the workshop. I'm probably going to need another day sort of wrapped around that to plan it effectively and then to manage my outputs from it. So I'll be sort of piecing that up into how long will this piece of work take.
Mm. And then pricing it
Yeah.
accordingly, following on from that. That is so interesting. And then is it up to you in terms of how the payment schedule works, or is it the client that decides that in terms of pay up front, pay per month, pay at the end kind of situation?
I've done it a few ways, and I'm not too hung up about it. But
Okay.
yeah, so I can split the fee across. So there's a monthly bill, or just pay at the end. To be honest, if it's looking like it's a 6 month piece of work, I probably don't want to wait 6 months to get paid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to point that out because I think obviously as from an employee perspective, we think salary.
Mm.
From a contractor perspective, you probably think day rate. But from this perspective, being a business to business type of interaction, it sounds like it sounds like it could be one of those options. Pay up front, pay during, or pay at the end, depending on how far how long the work takes.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Are there any other differences apart from, I guess, the way you procure work and the way you, what's the word, the way you negotiate that work and things like that? Particularly when you are now doing the work, is there any particular differences in that, or is it still you still feel like I'm a BA, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I am fully in control of the techniques that I use, the format of my outputs that I create. All of those things are sort of within my gift to choose what I think is going to be most effective. Nobody else gets to dictate how I do the business analysis work. So yeah, I really like that side of it. Just being in control there to choose what I think is going to work best.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So control, freedom, these are the words I'm hearing. And it sounds like you are enjoying it and still enjoying it since 2 years ago. So it's probably safe to say that you don't regret making this decision then.
Yeah, I mean, being able to choose the pieces of work that I do is nice as well. I work largely in the legal sector,
Mm.
and doing work that finds process efficiencies for law firms. At the end of the day, that's making more money for lawyers, and most people would probably say lawyers don't need more money. And so, I like those bits of work that go beyond that do actually improve the jobs for people in those organizations. That it removes the pain points for them in processes, makes the work more
Yeah,
rewarding. They can take their time away from mundane activities and get focused on the stuff where they get to actually apply their expertise and insights. Yeah, I did one small bit of work with a lady that runs a lingerie company. It was a little bit of
oh,
pro bono work, and yeah, she wanted to improve profitability so that she could pay her people more, which I thought was amazing. Yeah, you don't get many approaches like that, but I was like, yes, I can help you do that. So yeah, any angle like that really attracts me about a piece of work.
yeah, yeah. That definitely sounds interesting. And in terms of these clients that you're working with and things like that, you just touched on briefly that you obviously have expertise in the legal sector, but I'd imagine your clientele, particularly with Better Business Analysis, is fairly open to um, any kind of business that requires business analysis activities of sorts.
Yeah. So I don't advertise myself on my site as being, a BA to the legal world.
Mm,
But that is where the vast majority of my work and the interest in my work comes from. But I do like to think of myself as a BA that can apply his skills in any sector. And I have worked in other sectors. I've done stints in financial services, higher education. Yeah, that little bit working with a lingerie designer and
yeah,
manufacturer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, all sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any ambition to grow this to be a team of sorts, or are you at this moment just kind of thinking, you know what, one man band, this is my lane, I'm going to stick to it.
I would really like to grow it. It's a real challenge to do that. I came to a point about a year ago where I really thought I was about to, and the pipeline of work just didn't quite tip the balance enough where I thought, yeah, I could comfortably hire someone else. And even if the work isn't quite there to begin with, I can afford to, pay their salary for a year. I'm not going to bring them in and then say, oh, sorry, there's nothing for you, and I made a mistake, I've got to let you go. So I would like to. I really want to be in the position where I'm comfortable that I can keep and support that person.
Yeah, no, which definitely makes sense, and obviously that's a lot of responsibility, and yeah, at least the ambition is there. I'm sure you'll get there one day if you keep working towards that. But now looking back to say people who are today, they are where you were in 2020, and maybe they've been contracting, or maybe they've been a permanent BA for some time, but they're also, based on today's conversation, are also thinking to themselves, actually, I would like to go down this road. First of all, would you say yes, do it, or would you say think about it 10 times before you walk down this road?
I would recommend it to people, but it comes with some fairly heavy caveats, I think. It can get really hard, and it did get hard for me. Getting that pipeline of work coming through that will keep a roof over your head and and let you sleep at night can be really hard, because you've got to have conversations with clients, potential clients, that do result in you getting a piece of work from them. And that's hard because organizations aren't generally that used to going out and bringing in a consultant business analyst. Not many organizations are doing that. And so you've got to convince them of the value that you can bring to them, and that you're the right person that will help them solve their problems. Those conversations, though, you can be talking to a potential client for, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months, where it's an occasional phone call every couple of weeks, and then you get to a point where you're thinking, oh, should I be phoning them back and chasing them? I've not heard anything for a couple of weeks. Are they still interested? They've got other priorities. They've got other strategic goals that they're pursuing, and they're doing the day job as well. And so you might not be top of their list, and so you need to be comfortable enough, both emotionally and financially, that you can afford to wait. And that's really hard, because you can find yourself full of doubt. Have I done the right thing here? Should I just be going and getting a job, or do I hold out on the hope that this is the one? This this client does actually say yes, and they say yes soon, and I actually get some work. And that's a tough mental journey.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, and I really do appreciate that. So that's the red warning light. If you're thinking about doing this, think about that first. But let's just say they've heard what you said, and you haven't scared them off yet, Stu. They're thinking about doing it. Where do they begin? What kind of things should they consider doing that maybe they hadn't thought about, because all along they've been playing the kind of the employee/contractor route?
Yeah. So it's important to think about, where is the work going to come from? And for me, that was always going to be in the legal sector, because that's what I know and it's who I know. I have contacts in that sector. A lot of my work has come through. I know a great strategic consultant who goes in and talks to the leaders of law firms to help them kind of set their direction. And he can flag up, well, I know this guy, Stu, who can actually help you by coming in and looking at your finance processes, and getting those introductions is really important. So I think, taking time to think about, how am I going to find this work? Who do I know that might be a route to some pieces of work? That's really worth spending some time thinking about. And if at the end of that you think, actually, I'm not sure I have got that way in, maybe take some time to develop that first before making any kind of leap.
Yeah. What's been some of your highlight moments that you've kind of, in the moment just felt like, yeah, this feels good, or this feels right, that I'm doing this journey?
It's been some of the workshop moments, and Yeah, because sort of as the pandemic hit, of course, everything then went on online. So mastering using Miro to
Yep.
try and run an effective workshop. And yeah, I have had some where I've thought, yeah, this is what it's like on the telly, as it were. You hear sort of thought leaders in the BA community talk about how you can do really great workshops online, and when it happens, you're like, oh yeah, that's what it's meant to feel like.
Yeah.
You get participants, actively using the Miro board, and they're just adding sticky notes to it everywhere, and you're like, yes, this is what I wanted to happen, rather than those awkward silences where you're the only one moving your cursor around the screen.
Yeah, I've heard a few of those. Not the greatest, but no, that's a very strong position to be in, even as a BA. I think it's because I always think, because I used to work in sales and or customer service kind of jobs, and the biggest shift that I had to go through in my early stages when I made the shift to business analysis was realizing that in business analysis, there's no one there really to, number one, observe what you're doing, tell you whether what you're doing is good or bad, and then pet you in the back when you've done a good job, kind of thing. It's almost everything is self led, and to the point that you made about, part of the reasons why you wanted to switch to start your own consultancy was having the freedom to do the things that you wanted, so they make sense. But then in those moments when you are in a workshop and people are really engaging, it almost does feel like a pat on the back, doesn't it, to be like, oh yeah, this, I'm doing a pretty good job here in my role as a BA, because I'm not just doing things to say I've done business analysis, but I'm genuinely helping people solve a problem here.
Yeah, and I think that point that you haven't got other people sort of watching your work and giving you feedback on it that regularly. That's, I think, one of the hard things about being a solo BA, whether it's in my position as a consultant, or even if you're a permanent BA in an organisation and you're the only one there. For me, it's why I get so involved and engaged with the BA community, to try and keep my understanding fresh about what does good look like. What, who's out there doing good things? What does that look like? What techniques are they using? What do they recommend trying out as an approach? I now, luckily through IIBA UK, I have lots and lots of conversations with different BAs, and that's what kind of gets me through the fact that I'm the only BA in my company.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a nice segue to just that bit, the work that you're doing at IIBA. Can you just touch on, I guess, your role there and how you got into it?
Yeah, so I'm currently the Communities Director for Wales, the South West and the Midlands at IIBA UK. That role, oddly, actually comes to an end at the end of next month. You get elected for a 2-year stint. So my time is coming towards an end. But yeah, I started volunteering with IIBA shortly after setting up my company, because I was trying to reach out to other BAs. I started attending the brown bag sessions that we run every week. And that sort of got me thinking, well, yeah, maybe I'll volunteer. That'll keep me involved and engaged. And then this role as communities director came up for election. I thought, yeah, I could do that, and it'd be a good way to get to know BAs locally, etc. So put myself forward, and nobody else stood. So I won that election because I didn't have any competition.
That's because you stood head and shoulders above the rest there, Stu. No one wanted to come against you. They just knew there's no point. There is no point. But I didn't know that's coming to an end. That's interesting. How has the last 2 years been for you then in that role?
It's been really, really rewarding. And I have met so many BAs in my region. I mean, my region's enormous: Wales, the Midlands, and the Southwest. Thankfully, I'm here in Bristol, which is a nice sort of pivot point between those three areas. But over that time, we've brought together a great team of volunteers locally. They've been superb, helping organise events, find venues. Yeah, absolutely fantastic to work with. And yeah, really love working with the rest of the members of the board as well.
Mm. That's good to hear, but also sad to hear at the same time, because you do such a good job with the sessions and everything, which are great. So you have touched on quite a bit there that I guess, you have a specialism in the legal sector as a business analyst. My question to you first is: do you consider yourself as a specialist BA in the legal sector?
It's a really tough question. I like to think of myself as a generalist.
Okay.
And yeah, that's probably what I try and tell myself and other people that I am. But I know that I rely on my knowledge and understanding of how law firms function. That's what gets me work. It gets me in the room to win pieces of work. And it helps me when I'm doing the work because I come armed with a whole load of questions. I understand what normal looks like in a law firm, so that if I'm looking at one of their processes, I will probably spot what's odd about it. What, that they're doing something different to everyone else, and that will cause me to ask questions. So I lean heavily on my specialist knowledge. Both winning work and doing work.
Mm. Mm. On that topic then of doing the work, do you find actually that that's why there's so much value in, say, for example, if a law firm wanted to hire a BA, whichever route they go down, whether that is employment or contracting or consultancy, because and if they're going to do that, they would typically ask for somebody with some legal sector experience. Do you think that's the reason why? So that when a business analyst is doing business analysis activities, they've just got this extra bit of knowledge that they're able to spot these things very quickly, as opposed to myself. I've never worked in a law firm, so for me it might take me, I don't know, weeks or months to see something that may take you a day.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Permanent employment, it's less likely, I think, that they'll ask for legal experience. And part of that is probably because a lot of those BA roles in law firms are still very much attached within IT teams. And so it's more likely that they'll be asking for knowledge of, agile practices and creating user stories and using those tools like Jira and Confluence, etc. You'll see a lot of that in there. I think there's less expectation that a BA coming into an IT team in a law firm would know all about the legal sector.
Right.
But I think if they're going out for consultants, then they almost certainly would. I think that's more likely.
Yeah, and I think it's because they want you to hit the ground running. They don't have time to hold your hand and all the rest of it. So it kind of makes sense. So on this whole idea then of generalist BA and specialist BA, that idea alone, I mean, what's your thought process in general about that whole, which side of the coin should you be, and what should people aspire to be, and things like that? Do you think, which side do you lean on more?
Yeah, for years and years, I have sort of banged the drum for being a good generalist BA, and that if you are good, you can be dropped into any situation and thrive there, and you will do good analysis work that's valuable to your customer. Because you're armed with such a great set of skills. You've got all of those stakeholder engagement skills. You've got all the sort of technical analysis skills around data and systems and processes, and you can deploy them anywhere. You're good at asking smart questions, etc. So yeah, that's definitely what I've always professed.
Okay.
I'm just not sure that I've lived up to it.
which makes some sense because I would personally say you're a specialist BA personally, but I guess the specialism is just simply because you've got the breadth of experience in the legal sector. So for me, that I would see that, I guess, if I was to see your career history, and I'll point to that and say that is a specialist legal BA uh, professional. Whereas it's quite interesting that you would kind of still be like, no, I'm a generalist BA. And I guess, is that because you feel that although you have got this legal experience knowledge, your business analysis approach and methodology and all the rest of it is still fundamental business analysis?
Yeah, and I have started to reduce the amount that I try and explain business analysis to non BAs, because frankly, why should they care?
Yeah.
They should be interested in what are they going to get out of someone doing good business analysis.
Mm.
And so a lot of those things like, oh, well, I can do requirements definition. Why would anyone that's not a BA really care what requirements definition is? So I don't have those sort of conversations where I'm selling the sort of pure BA skill set in those terms anyway. I'm more talking about what it can do for them in establishing, whether a particular system solution might meet their needs, rather than using phrases like requirements.
Right. Yeah. So let's just think of a scenario. Let's just say that I'm early on in my career. Early, maybe I'm thinking a couple of years, right? So 2 years in as a business analyst, I'm still finding my feet almost, or I'm still learning the trade and things like that. What would you then advise me? Would you advise me to focus on, you know, build the bread and butter business analysis skills, and kind of go down that generalist BA mindset? Or would you almost say do that, but also find a specialism to give you an extra edge in a particular area? What would you say to me?
I think in early career, getting exposure to lots of different types of organization is really, really useful.
Mm.
Because just because, I don't know, a law firm does things a particular way doesn't mean that's the best or right way. If you've been exposed, say, to retail or manufacturing, there will be a lot of great things that you can learn from those that will change the way you then look at, say, a law firm. So and it also gives you that practice at trying to deploy those skills that you're learning in different environments. It means you're always learning about a new organization as well. And I think being able to do that rapidly is a really good skill to have, to find
Yeah.
yourself somewhere new and rapidly try and establish how does this work.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, which really speaks to the mindset of business analysis and the mentality of just saying, go in and effectively analyze the problems, understand the business and its operations and all the rest of it, and help them to understand the problem and also solve the problem in the right way. Effectively, the specialism almost then feels like a icing on the cake, maybe.
Yeah, and I think you can, if you're relying too much on your specialism, and I think it's a similar issue if somebody becomes an institutionalized BA, if they're in the same organization for years and years. The
Mm.
thing that's helping them do their job is partly the fact that they know how this organization works. They know who to go and speak to about particular problems. And they're filling in the blanks where they can't get information directly from stakeholders. They don't need to ask some of those questions because they just sort of know it. But the danger is always then that you start taking shortcuts, or you start making assumptions, or that you can't think outside the box because you don't have any other lens to look at things through other than the way you've been doing it there in that place all that time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. Which I definitely see the value in ensuring that you're broadening your perspective and your approach and the projects you've been working on. It may even still be within the same organization, but you're just being very deliberate about being exposed to new areas within the organization. So it's not too siloed almost in a specific department, specific team all the time sort of thing. You're really kind of putting yourself in the unknown, whether that's within your existing organization or another one.
Yeah, and I think there seems to be a trend in sort of recruitment and people moving between jobs as well. It seems far more acceptable for people to move between jobs after a year or two, whereas I think 10 years ago that kind of behaviour used to raise eyebrows.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah, people are quite comfortable with candidates that have moved jobs every couple of years. So I think if you're new to the profession, don't feel like you're doing something bad by changing your employer on a reasonably regular basis.
In your career, did you move around quite a bit?
And I had some fairly lengthy stints at places, sort of 5 years-ish on average.
And looking back now, do you feel like that was too long or enough?
I think that was enough for me.
Yep. I asked that because to your point that you made earlier about like sometimes you may stay somewhere too long, but you don't realize it in the moment. You're kind of getting comfortable with the surroundings, the way things are, and you're no longer pushing yourself. But it's good to hear that you didn't feel like you were there too long, which would have been an interesting position to be in.
Yeah, and I mean, I've definitely had in my career times when I've thought that the grass would be greener somewhere else. If I move to another organisation, maybe they'll understand business analysis better, and I'll be able to be the BA that I dream I am in my head somewhere new. And of course, it's never quite it's never as bad as you think it is where you are, and it's never as good as you think it's going to be at the next place.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. So coming back to this concept of generalist BA and specialist BA, let's just say then, for example, that I'm in a similar position as you are, where I've just so happened to work in a particular field. Let's just say it's higher education, and I've kind of jumped around different institutions in the higher education space. Would you recommend, or maybe recommend is a strong word, but if I was to come to you and say, right, Stu, I've been a BA for 10 years, but majority of that 10 years has been in higher education. And I'm thinking about, I can't decide even whether to stick to it or to try something else, right? Like insurance or legal. What would you say to that? Would you say to me, well, I have a superpower in higher education, so I should use it? Or fill in the blanks of this other part here, and that will make you more of a robust BA in different environments, etc.
I would probably try and recommend using some BA analysis and techniques on yourself to uncover what you really need from the situation. Because either path is going to bring pros and cons, and so you just need to work out which of those are the best fit for you and where you want to be in life. One thing I would really recommend is go and talk to some people in that other industry that you're thinking about. Lean on your network of fellow BAs, find out what that's going to be like there and what you might get from it before making a leap.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. So what does 2024 look like for you then?
I hope more of the same. I think work will hopefully keep me busy. I've been doing quite a lot of work internationally in the last year, which has been really nice. And actually got my first trip into a client's offices since setting up the business was actually this summer, and that was in a client's offices in Israel. So that was
Oh,
really nice. So I'm hoping maybe a bit more international where it would be fun, particularly if I get to travel for it. Yeah,
mm,
I'd love to be able to grow the business and bring more people in. That would be really rewarding. And yeah, growing a team, that'd be nice to have.
awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely would love. I'll definitely keep an eye on your journey, and would love to see that fruition, come to fruition even. Um, so Stu, I think this has been a really good conversation, and I'm really really glad that you came on the show. You've definitely spoke and touched on elements such as transitioning from contracting slash employment to setting up your own consultancy, and you really are kind of led us on that journey of getting under the bonnet of the realities of that transition, but also sharing your thoughts and expertise around generalist versus specialist BAs, and what people should concentrate on, which is, in a nutshell, what I found is driving the value of business analysis, not necessarily saying this is what I know, this is what I can do, but actually this is the value that I bring in the organizations and the teams that I work with. So I really appreciate your expertise and breaking that down for us. Um, in closing, I've got two questions. The first question is, if people would like to get in touch with you and maybe say their maybe say their farewells with the IIBA door chapter coming to an end, or with wanting to kind of learn more about being a solo business consultancy, but also maybe even look to partner with you in some way, shape, or form with better business analysis, where can they find you?
So I would say first port of call is probably LinkedIn. Look me up on there. I don't think there are many Stu Mullingers out there online, so yeah, I should be fairly easy to find there. And you can send me a connection request, drop me a message. That's definitely the easiest way to get me.
No, that's great. I'll put the link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well, so people can find you on that quickly. And the final question is, just based on the conversation we've had today, are there any parting words that you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, just to encourage BAs to connect with other people in the business analysis world. And that could be BAs in other organizations. It could be senior BAs, junior BAs. Build yourself a network of all sorts of people, because you'll learn from them constantly, and they will really value hearing from you as well. And you never know when those connections are going to be useful.
I 100% co-sign that, and I completely agree. And in fact, just us having this conversation today is a result of us being connected online.
Absolutely.
So there you go, right? That's a motivation enough for you to do so. But Stu, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you, and I also appreciate the work that you're doing and continuously pioneering the BA profession. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Tando.